How's it going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. I got a question recently from Susie Q from the channel, so shout out to you. She has a question on one of the more recent videos by Joel Beckman. She asks, I have a multiple part question. When we're walking from one safe place to another safe place, how long should I let her sniff? By safe, I mean free of strange dogs. Is this better to work on in our own yard? And what should I do or say to get her attention to a loose leash walk? She drags me and everyone else on leash. We have never had a loose leash walk. The leash has become a signal that we're going somewhere. Now the leash stays in the car and a collar is the new signal. So I've been putting it on her and taking it off to remove its connection to going out. First off, thank you for the question, and secondly, good job on the end of your comment there about kind of removing the signal of the collar or the leash. That means that we're going out. This is a great way to desensitize your dog by putting it on, getting the leash, showing it, putting it down. If your dog gets nervous when you're going out, then I always recommend people pick up their keys, pick up their purse, wallet, jacket, whatever they normally, pick up when they're leaving the house, and then put it all back down and go and sit down and relax. And practice that a couple of times a day. And over time, the grabbing of keys or a wallet, or even the leash or the collar, that becomes extinguished as the precursor to we're going out. So you are counter-conditioning your dog. When it comes to letting your dog sniff, I think it really just depends on the individual person and how you're feeling that day. I mean, with Adonis, I would pretty much any time I would let him sniff something, unless there was a dog coming up behind us and we needed to move along on a path or on a sidewalk or something like that. Or of course, if we're crossing a street, I'm not going to let him sit there and sniff something in the middle of the street while there's vehicles waiting to go by. But for the most part, when I had Adonis, I would just let him sniff pretty much whatever for as long as he wanted to. Granted, he is not a hound, or even a big German Shepherd that has, a very strong sense of smell. But for him, there was an instance where we were walking in the neighborhood, as we had done many, many times before, and he just, for the first time, happened to notice a little rock man statue. It was literally just like a humanoid figure made out of rocks. There was no physical features. It was just like one here, one for the head, and then like a V shape for the legs. And it had a little scarf, for the Seattle Seahawks, all that gear going on. And he noticed it for the first time. And we'd passed this, a million times before. And he stared at it, I'd say at least a good 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And I just stood there on his loose leash and let him just take it in. He kind of looked at it. He didn't growl or anything. He just stared at it. He would kind of go from different points of view, and then he moved on. So I didn't have anything else going on that day. I didn't have anything better to do that day, so I just kind of let him do that. Or if he would go and sniff something, we'd be there, I don't know, maybe for a good sniff, like 30 seconds or 10 seconds. Whatever, and then we would just move on. So for me, I'm very passive with a lot of pets. I'm too nice. I like to let them be an animal. But of course, there's a time and a place for everything. So if you're going to an area and it happens to be safe, free of other strange dogs, then you could treat it as like what they say, a sniffari, where you can let your dog sniff. You put a time limit. We're going to go out for a sniff walk for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. And I'm going to let my dog sniff whatever they want to, so long as it's safe, of course. I'm going to let them sniff for as long as their little heart desires within that period of time of 20 minutes, 10 minutes, or 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, so on and so forth. So you could just decide, I think sniffing is a great way to mentally stimulate your dog. It helps them, with socializing. They learn the differences in their new environment. They learn about all sorts of things, different animals and how different textures smell when they're wet versus dry. So I think sniffing is a really good thing, especially for a dog that pulls really hard and may not necessarily get to go for a pleasurable walk too often. I don't know how often you're able to take your dog out. When it comes to the pulling or if she is sniffing and you're trying to get her attention, a lot of times I instinctively will just make like kissy noise or like a whistle, or just clap my hands maybe. snap your fingers, you can stomp the ground, or just back up, scooting your feet on the ground, make sure that you're okay, you don't trip over anything. You can even use a whistle. I've taught, Adonis and other dogs to use a whistle of multiple different frequencies as their recall. So you would blow the whistle, pair with something really, really tasty, or a ball, something that they really enjoy. And so that just means, whenever you whistle, they look at you and they come back to you. Usually it's a very specific sound that cuts through all the normal talking. I'm always yammering, so that can desensitize your dog to normal talking. So with Adonis, towards the end, I had messed up his recall so many times, saying come and then here and then, whatever, side and whatnot. I had never, and by messed it up, I mean, I had not reinforced it properly enough and practiced enough in a predictable environment where I knew he would come back 100% of the time. I would practice it before we were ready to in environments where he was either off leash or even on a long line, but he didn't respond to the cue, and so it kind of ruins it. So I just switched it up to making, I just call it my Bigfoot call, that whoo. I don't know if anybody else in the house will hear me, but that's what I would use. And obviously I'm not going to say it unless I'm specifically training, and it's a very high-pitched and very specific way. And so towards the end, and by towards the end I mean for anybody who doesn't know, my little boy passed away at age 12. I put Adonis down when he was 12 years, 1 month, and 4 days old on July 17th. So up until that point, between 11 and 12 years old, is when I thought to use something entirely different. I had tried the whistle, and we both have sensitive ears, didn't really work out. And so I made the little Bigfoot call, if you will, the Adonis call, and that worked out great because I didn't use it in any other situation. I took the time it took, and so anytime in the house, I could just be in another room and just say it, and he would just come running, and so that's what we wanted. If he had been around longer, then I'm sure we would absolutely be working and practicing with it outside on long lines and all that good stuff. When it comes to, teaching your dog to have a loose leash, they mention here that they have a wide 3-inch collar, which I do love. I like a nice wide flat collar if you're going to use one. And they also have a harness called a Wilder Dog, which I do enjoy as well. I really like that product and the design of the harness. So I'm a big harness fan. I don't mind using collars as well. I actually teach dogs to walk in both. And with Adonis, if his neck were longer, then, I probably would have a really wide collar on him. But for him, 1.5 inches was about as wide as was necessary for him. So it's nice and wide and comfortable, and we don't have any of this, tiny slip lead type, pressure on him. So I do have a video of how I teach pressure and release. You don't have to use treats with this method. You can. I mean, there's times when you're, as this dog, as Susie Q has mentioned before, that her dog just does not take treats outside, so try practicing maybe in the backyard, the front yard. If she still loses her interest in that, then use sniffing as her real life reward. You might practice that. I always leave how I teach a dog loose leash in the description below, and it's usually at the end of the video for the next suggested videos. So hopefully that might help, where you don't have to necessarily use treats as a reward, but use sniffing when you can. I hope this answers your question. Basically, in short, for everybody who, too long didn't read, you can choose whenever you feel safe for your dog to sniff. You can use it as a great reward, as mental stimulation, just something fun as a reward, reinforcement of a behavior where they check in with you. All right, let's go sniff something. And you can let them sniff as long as you would like to. Just keep in mind that, yes, dogs are built to sniff. Their nose and smelling something is like us with our cell phones, or us with any other type of entertainment for us. And so dogs live to smell. So yeah, let your dogs go out there and let them sniff at appropriate times. If you're just on a walk and you say, we need you to just go potty, then maybe you need to limit the sniffing a little bit, but never let your dog sniff. And you don't have to always let your dog sniff. If you need to get going, you know, best in a moderation, you know, decide. Let them, there's times when they can sniff and times when we can't sniff. So I hope that helps. Of course, anybody else and Susie Q as well, always reach out with any questions or any more clarification of anything. I'm always happy to help. Thank you so much for everybody's support. I hope you all are doing well. Say hi to your little critters from me. Give them some kind of loving from me. And until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.